When it comes to Smash Bros., speculation of future fighters has continued to evolve with each release. And as of Smash for Wii U, it evolves even further once the game has released and DLC is confirmed. It's at this point where characters never considered during the base game come to the forefront and are thought to be characters with a serious chance. Despite this, Smash Ultimate's DLC speculation period has given birth to the popular request of a character that, by all means, has never seemed to have any chance, and is considered a likely candidate due to specific circumstances around the company that owns them. That character is, surprisingly, Master Chief from the Halo series. Now, Halo is incredibly popular, and I'm quite a big fan of the franchise myself, but even then, I have never truly understood how he got to be in such a position. Master Chief, a character with no connection to Nintendo, and a franchise that represents an era where Microsoft was at all-out war with its competitors. It's all truly odd, but even then, it doesn't mean that Chief doesn't have moveset potential. Sometimes it's fun to play around with ideas that may very well never happen, you know? Now let's get started. This is Master Chief for Super Smash Bros. Master Chief! Master Chief is a mid-range skirmisher who excels at controlling space and dealing damage from afar, wielding a wide array of weaponry designed for quickly shredding down his opponent's health and holding back their approach. Mix that with a high weight value and a strong character mechanic, and you have what can essentially be considered a one-man army, much like Chief is in his home franchise. However, while strong at mid-range, Chief's strength is cut down significantly should he not be able to hold his distance, be it either with the opponent rushing him down or staying out of his weapon's effective range. To win as Master Chief, one must get into the mindset of playing Smash Bros. Like your average game of Halo multiplayer. Stay on the defensive as you rack up your opponent's damage from a range, and once you've broken through their defenses, confirm a kill with close range weaponry. Master Chief is a large humanoid character, his height being around the same as Ganondorf. When it comes to building Master Chief for a fighting game, especially one with as much mobility as Smash Bros., I felt it was important to take cues from how the actual Halo titles feel and play. A character with mid to below average movement speed and great aerial speed offset by large floaty jumps. As a way of also adding on to the feeling of Halo, Master Chief will utilize some extra goodies for basic character movement, including the use of the thruster pack for his rolls and active camouflage for his sidestep and aerial dodge. On top of that, Master Chief will pull up a hard light shield when he performs a perfect shield, as well as his run animation being similar to Sprint from Halo Reach and Halo 4. In terms of mobility options, Master Chief has 2 jumps, along with the ability to crawl. When it comes to Halo as a series, there's only one mechanic that Master Chief could possibly bring along with him to Smash Bros., and that's the series' iconic Overshield. In Halo, the Overshield serves as Chief's main health bar in the majority of the series' titles, and once the shield has been depleted, Chief would die after taking another burst of damage. Some games would add on an additional health bar, but this has always been the main tether that ensures the player stays alive while in combat. In Smash, the Overshield will provide Chief with extra protection when either on the approach or on the retreat, the shield itself cutting down on the damage of incoming projectiles that are at or below 20% damage. Should Chief be hit by a projectile of a lower damage value than the shield covers, these attacks will deal 25% less damage and knockback, but if the damage of the projectile exceeds the protection of the shield, it will rip clean through it and hurt Chief just like any other character in the game, all while depleting the shield in the process. However, while the shield can protect Chief from projectiles, melee attacks will rip through the shield instantly, just like in the Halo series itself. Once depleted, Master Chief will need to go 3 seconds without getting hit in order for it to recharge, the strength of the shield showing right above his percent bar and giving a brief alert sound once it has been depleted. While he might be a walking arsenal, Master Chief's main weapon of choice for his normal attacks is his trusty sidearm, the M6D Magnum. A UNSC favorite for over 150 years, this high-powered sidearm will play into the second half of Chief's character mechanic, for while this weapon can be used to whip and beat his opponents, he will be able to fire off shots in one of multiple directions by mashing the A button. These shots will deal decent chunks of damage, but don't expect it to be the hunter-dropping monster it was in the original Halo. After 8 shots, the Magnum will have to reload. Other than the Magnum, Chief will make use of a personal favorite ordnance of the Covenant, the iconic Type 1 Energy Sword. This dual-pronged blade is designed for close quarters combat, which is exactly why Chief brings it into battle with him. It's sitting comfortably on his hip and ready to swing at a moment's notice. While a majority of Chief's weapons are UNSC based, the Energy Sword was so iconic I couldn't help but make it a serious part of his combat structure. Besides these 2 weapons, Chief will also fight with hand-to-hand combat befitting a Spartan. Neutral Combo is a 3-hit combo featuring the use of his Magnum. It's starting with an elbow strike before going into a pistol whip and finishing with a roundhouse kick. Side Tilt is the first attack that will make use of the Energy Sword, Master Chief swinging downwards before swinging horizontally. This double hitting attack has to be input twice, much like Snake's forward tilt, and should the A button be mashed during the move, Chief will fire off his Magnum in a straight line in front of him. Up Tilt is an upward swing using the Energy Sword, based on the sword's original attack animation from the first 3 Halo titles. This attack, while strong, is slow on the recovery, though the recovery can be cut down by mashing the attack button with the Magnum and firing at an upward angle. Down Tilt will have Chief perform a low-hitting spin kick, knocking out his opponent's balance and launching them up into the air. This is Chief's fastest tilt by far, and is meant to be one of the best ways of keeping opponents from getting too close. If the attack button is mashed, Chief will follow up with a low-angled Magnum shot, aiming for his opponent's shins. Chief's dash attack is the Energy Sword's iconic lunge, this upward strike launching the opponent skyward and being a fantastic way of closing out a stock. As is to be expected of a dash attack that's designed to KO, this move is pretty slow on the recovery, so using this move recklessly is not advised. If the attack button is mashed during this attack, Master Chief will fire off his Magnum while sliding along the floor. For his get-up attack, Master Chief will strike with a punch, then an elbow, with his ledge attack being a whip from his Magnum. As smash attacks require a bit more oomph, Master Chief will utilize a brand new weapon designed to destroy anything at close range with even more destructive force than the Energy Sword. The second and last of the Covenant weaponry being utilized in this moveset, the Type 2 Energy Hammer, or as it's commonly referred to, the Gravity Hammer. This massive weapon will provide Chief's smash attacks with fantastic reach and damage, but this weapon's knockback potential is its true claim to fame. While powerful when it hits its opponent directly, the Gravity Hammer's strikes will release a gravitonic surge that will also affect the area around the hammer's head, pushing back opponents outside the direct hit range. Forward Smash will have Master Chief wind up before slamming the hammer down in front of him, dealing heavy damage. This is the standard attack of the Gravity Hammer in the Halo titles, with the other 2 Smash attacks taking creative liberties with how Chief utilizes this weapon. Up Smash will have Chief attack in a wide overhead strike, this attack starting low before ending high. Near the apex of the swing, the hammer has the potential to create a surge of gravity should it come into contact with an opponent. Finally, Down Smash will have Chief swing the Gravity Hammer horizontally around himself, striking on both sides before leaping up into the air and bringing the head of the hammer down into the ground, creating a gravitonic burst that will launch opponents with heavy force. As this attack hits a total of 3 times, it's excellent at catching a bad getup at the ledge, but be sure it hits, as that final hit takes a while to recover from. Master Chief's aerials will follow the same flow as his grounded normals, featuring the use of close quarters melee attacks as well as the use of his Energy Sword. Also, like on the ground, the player can mash the attack button in the middle of an attack's animation in order to fire their Magnum and add extra pressure to their aerial game. Neutral air is Orbital Aggression, which is a flurry of rapid kicks that ends with a close-range smash with Chief's trusty Magnum. When the A button is mashed, Chief will fire his magnum at a downward angle, his aerial mobility remaining intact as he fires. Forward air is an aerial slash with the energy sword, hitting in a wide arc that launches opponents up and away from Chief. Mashing the attack button in the middle of this move will have Chief fire his magnum in a straight line in front of him. Up air is Pillar of Autumn, which will have Chief launch his body upwards in a vertical kick, the launch force of this move being empowered by the jets installed in his armor's shoulder blades. This is one of Chief's best kill confirms, and should the player mash the attack button during this move, Chief will flip around and begin firing his magnum straight up above him. Back air is the Mark 6 Roundhouse, Chief spinning around in mid-air to deliver a brutal kick that will launch foes away with heavy force. Another solid kill option, mashing the attack button during this move will have Chief fire his magnum in a straight line behind him. Finally, down air is Armor Lock, Chief locking up his armor as he falls through the air at breakneck speed and smashes into the ground below. Once he's made impact with the ground, Chief will unlock his armor, which will also deal damage to anyone close to him. This fast-falling aerial acts as a meteor smash, and like Sonic's down air, it can be cancelled into his recovery special after reaching a certain distance threshold. This is the only aerial Chief has that does not link into the use of his magnum. Master Chief will reach forward and grab using the hand closest to the camera, all while performing a headbutt strike for his pummel. This pummel is slow, but deals decent damage. When it comes to his throws, most people would probably think that the assassinations of Reach and 4 would be the best choices, but upon looking through them all, I don't think they fit into a game like Smash Brothers. However, there is another game to take inspiration from for this section, and that game is, surprisingly, Dead or Alive 4. Before the release of Halo 3, Microsoft took the opportunity to advertise the upcoming game's release with Nicole 458, a female Spartan that fought with a heavy-hitting playstyle and utilized goodies such as invisibility and plasma grenades, and her throws are a perfect reference point for Chief in a fighting game. Forward throw is Oni Interrogation, Chief picking the opponent up with one arm before reeling back and driving his fist into their chest, launching them away with serious force. This throw has the best kill potential of Chief's throws, as well as the highest damage output. Down throw is Flood Exterminator, Chief picking his opponent up before slamming them into the ground. This throw serves as Chief's combo throw. Back throw is Crossfire Grab, Chief moving behind his opponent and cracking their neck before sending them flying with a straight kick. Finally, up throw is Escape Velocity, and is the only throw based on an assassination from the actual Halo titles. More specifically, the Griff Ball assassination. With this, Chief will shoulder check his opponent to stagger them, all before reeling back and unleashing an upward punch, launching the opponent skyward. While Chief utilizes a small but versatile set of weapons for his normal attacks, it's here in his specials where Chief truly turns into a walking arsenal, the iconic weapons of Halo being put on full display. As a Spartan, a majority of the tools Chief will use are UNSC weaponry, but there are a couple of goodies that are so iconic that I'd be foolish to not include them. Standard Special is split into two different moves, these being Weapon Wheel and Weapon Fire. With Weapon Wheel, Master Chief gains access to the 6 iconic UNSC weapons seen throughout the Halo series, each having unique strengths and weaknesses. These weapons are the Assault Rifle, the Battle Rifle, the Sniper Rifle, the Shotgun, the Rocket Launcher, and the Spartan Laser. By double tapping then holding the B button, these weapons can be chosen from a circular menu that appears around Chief, taking its visual design from the UI of the Halo series. Once chosen, the player can double tap the B button again to bring up the menu and choose a different weapon. All 6 of Chief's weapons charge and fire the same way, which is either by tapping or holding the B button, and Chief is fully capable of moving around in all 8 directions while firing. Just keep in mind that Chief cannot turn around while firing, so try to catch your opponent's approach with jump shots, or, if you want to hold your ground, holding the shield button while your weapon is active will lock your position, allowing you to freely aim up and down at the cost of mobility. All weapons also have a set amount of ammo per clip, and once the clip has been emptied, Chief must reload, leaving the player open for a brief moment. Don't worry though, for while the need to reload is present, Chief's weapons have unlimited ammo and will always be ready to use when the player needs them. Now, let's talk about the 6 different weapons Chief will bring with him into battle. Weapon number 1 is the iconic MA5 Assault Rifle, this specific version being the MA5C model seen in Halo 3 and ODST. Holding 32 rounds per clip, this weapon will release a rapid spray of bullets that will deal non-flinching damage, these rounds starting with a smaller area of spread that will grow larger the longer the B button is held. Strongest at close range, firing in small bursts will keep this weapon spread small and maximize damage, and should your opponent not have any means of restricting your approach, it's best to rush them down and keep up the pressure. While the weapon's shots don't deal any flinching damage, the weapon does have a wind box near its barrel, pushing back foes as it fires. Weapon number 2 is every Halo 2 player's favorite, the BR-55 Service Rifle, commonly known as the Battle Rifle. Holding 36 rounds per clip, this weapon is designed for mid-range fights. Its 3-round burst covering a solid range in exchange for a brief cooldown window between each shot. Unlike the assault rifle, this weapon's shots will make the opponent flinch, although the level of flinching will degrade the further away the opponent is from Chief. Much like its pedigree in Halo 2, the battle rifle is designed to be Chief's best gun in the neutral, it being both strong on the approach and while trying to retreat. However, while that's the case, this weapon's slow rate of fire is its biggest downside, making it very easy to counter should it be used at close range. Once you've gotten in close to your opponent, it's best to swap to your close range tools, much like the battle loop of Halo 2 multiplayer. Weapon number 3 is the SRS-99 Sniper Rifle, Halo's most powerful long-range ordnance that is designed to destroy opponents before they even have a chance to approach. Taking its design from the SRS-99D model from Halo 3, this weapon holds a total of 4 shots per clip, each shot covering the entire horizontal screen length of your standard battlefield or Omega stage. This weapon is designed to punish opponents who either refuse to approach or try to wall Chief out, firing at incredible speed and dealing massive amounts of damage in the process. However, in exchange for its incredible damage output, this weapon's cooldown is quite substantial, meaning it's very easy to punish should your opponent manage to either dodge or shield the attack, even if this move's shield pressure makes the latter a rather risky affair. Also, thanks to its fantastic range, this weapon makes for one of Chief's best edgeguarding tools, its shots capable of closing out stocks at very early percents. Weapon number 4 is the M90CAWS, known better as the shotgun. Holding a total of 6 rounds per clip, this close-range ordnance is designed to shred an opponent's defenses and rack up damage. While a shotgun is at its strongest when at point-blank range, this weapon will release a wide spray of shrapnel that covers a decent range, its damage being cut down dramatically as it travels away from the barrel of the weapon. In terms of weaknesses, the shotgun's greatest weakness is the fact that Chief must pump out each shell after firing, this weapon having the slowest rate of fire of all the semi-automatic weapons. While it's dangerous for an opponent to shield this weapon's shots at close range, it's very easy to counter this weapon when at mid-range, not to mention the amount of damage this move can do to Chief should it get reflected. Weapon number 5 is the M41 Rocket Launcher, an explosive ordnance that is designed to confirm kills from a range and just cause general chaos. Holding a total of 2 rockets per magazine, these rockets will fly in a straight line until they come into contact with either a wall or an opponent, it then exploding in a wide radius that will deal splash damage to anyone nearby. These rockets will pick up speed as they travel, and like the sniper rifle, there is no damage fall off, making it effective at all ranges. Well, almost all ranges. While the rockets are very powerful, Chief can be harmed by their explosions just as badly as anyone else, so it's not advised for you to fire this weapon at close range unless you have a substantial percent lead on your opponent. Other than that, this weapon's low ammo count per magazine means that the player will be forced to reload often, which is far more noticeable as the rocket launcher has the slowest reload rate of all of Chief's weapons. Finally, weapon number 6 is the M6 Grindel Nonlinear Rifle, although it's known by its more iconic name, the Spartan Laser. Introduced in Halo 3, the Spartan laser is the most powerful weapon in the UNSC's arsenal, and unlike the other weapons that Chief can use, this weapon does not need to reload. But in return, this weapon cannot be fired unless the B button is held for a set period of time, after which it will unleash a full-screen laser beam with a very high amount of priority and an even higher damage output. Chief is capable of moving around while charging, but this move cannot have its charge stored. If you want to fire this weapon, you need to charge it all in one go, which will take a total of 3 seconds to do. While its startup is substantial, Chief is capable of canceling the charge at any point with either a roll or a shield, so he's not a sitting duck while he's charging. While Standard Special covers the main weapons used in his home series, guns aren't the only form of ordnance that Chief carries with him when going into battle. As a matter of fact, many fans would consider it only one half of Chief's game plan, with the other half being the basis for his side special, grenades. More specifically, the Halo series' iconic plasma grenades. Also referred to as the sticky grenade by fans, these blue ball-like explosives will latch onto anything it comes into contact with, be it a wall or, more importantly, an opponent. When stuck on an opponent, the grenade will take a brief moment before it explodes, glowing a bright blue before blowing whatever it's stuck to apart. Here in Smash, the plasma grenade will work a lot like that of the sticky bomb item, in which it will attach to its target before exploding, but before it explodes, it can be transferred to another player should they come into contact with the stuck opponent. Should an opponent not want to be blown apart by this attack, their best option is to hold shield, but this might leave them open to damage from afar. It should also be noted that, like in Halo, the plasma grenade will explode immediately if it comes into contact with another explosion, creating a chain reaction that might lead to an easy shield break or an early KO. Chief is capable of tossing these grenades in one of two ways, either through the standard throwing arc of the Halo series, or a faster straightforward throw by inputting this special like a smash attack. However, unlike the grenades used by Snake and Inkling, Chief cannot fill the screen with these sticky nightmares, instead being limited to a set amount of grenades that will recharge slowly over a set period of time. This grenade count is indicated beside the ammo count of the weapon currently being used by Chief, with 4 grenades being the maximum amount that he can carry. Grenades will recharge at a rate of 1 grenade every 7 seconds, so pick your time to use them carefully. Master Chief's recovery special is Grav Launcher, a fun spin on the main style of vertical transportation in the Halo series. When the move begins, Chief will squat down, building up energy as a grav lift appears below him. This grav lift will then rocket Chief up into the air, his body acting like that of a battering ram as he smashes through anything in his way. This special will give Chief a substantial amount of vertical recovery, but Chief cannot move side to side until he reaches the apex of the jump, leaving him wide open to punishment should an opponent hit him from the side. To compensate for this, Chief will not go into a freefall state after using this move, along with the grav lift itself acting as a projectile once it starts to fall, much like that of Sonic's Spring. With Chief's specials already covering his main arsenal as well as grenades, there's only one part of his toolset that has yet to be represented, and that's equipment. While power-ups have been around since the first Halo, it wasn't until Halo 3 that these extra goodies truly started to make a name for themselves, and the most iconic one of them is Chief's down special, the Bubble Shield. When this special is activated, Chief will pull out the Bubble Shield's beacon and shove it into the ground below him, it then activating and creating a circular shield that will deflect all incoming projectiles. However, the outside of the shield is not the only part that will nullify projectile damage, for whoever is inside the shield cannot fire through it either, so be sure to not throw grenades or fire rockets while inside the shield should you not want to kill yourself. While the bubble itself is immune to projectile damage, the beacon is vulnerable to physical damage and can be destroyed early by opponents, making this move very hard to use should your opponent be right on top of you. This shield will stay active for 7 seconds before it disappears, it being forced to recharge before Chief can deploy it again. Next is the final smash, and when it comes to Halo, there's no better way to finish a fight than with a good old-fashioned Warthog run. When the final smash begins, a Warthog will ride in from the opposite side of the screen that Chief is on, barreling through any opponents in its way and locking those hit into the cinematic final smash. With this, Chief will hop into the Warthog and step on the gas. the COD opponents being seen in the background as the area around them begins to explode. With the explosion hot on his tail, Chief will fly down the narrow corridor. The COD opponents continuing to take damage before Chief flies out of the opening, the Pillar of Autumn being seen in the background as it explodes violently. It's at this point that all opponents' hit will be launched and the cinematic final smash will conclude, the Warthog skidding to a stop on the stage as Chief hops out and gets back into his idle stance. There are a lot of iconic moments in Halo that could make for a great final smash, but I felt paying tribute to one of the most iconic segments in the Halo series was the best option overall. Master Chief's victory theme is the iconic track introduced in Halo 3, Finish the Fight. Truly the perfect song to depict the conclusion to an epic battle. Victory animation number 1 will have Master Chief load a magazine into his assault rifle, remarking with his iconic line, "I think we're just getting started," as he strikes a pose similar to his pose on the cover of Halo 1 once his name flashes on screen. Once concluded, the camera will pan back and Chief will strike a pose similar to the cover of Halo 3. 2 iconic cover poses rolled into a single victory screen. Victory animation number 2 will have Chief hold Cortana's chip in his hand, Cortana congratulating him on his victory before placing the chip back in his head, Chief stating that the fight isn't over yet. Finally, victory animation number 3 will have Chief drive in on a Warthog, all before hopping out and striking an action pose. Should Chief win with his final smash, this will always be his victory animation. For his taunts, Chief will perform the taunt while bantering with Cortana, who will interact with him as a disembodied voice, all save for one taunt, which will actually feature Cortana herself. Taunt number 1 will have Chief drop the mag in his magnum before pulling out a new one, reloading as Cortana asks if he plans on shooting his way out, Chief then responding with, "You took the words right out of my mouth." Taunt number 2 will have Chief pull out Cortana's chip from his head, Cortana appearing and remarking about one of several different things. A couple of things that she can talk about are finding a weakness in the enemy's armor or about how it's too soon to be relaxing like this, Chief and Cortana sharing a few words before Chief puts the chip back in his head. This taunt is random and can have its dialogue change with each use. Finally, taunt number 3 will have Chief pull out one of the skulls commonly used in challenge runs of each game's campaigns. Looking at it, Cortana will ask if he plans to use it, Chief tossing it away over his shoulder as he calls it not necessary. If the opponent is standing behind Chief when he uses this taunt, they can be hit by the skull, which will deal 1% damage and create a confetti effect much like the Grunt birthday party skull from the Halo series. When it comes to designing Master Chief for Smash, one of the easiest things to conceive is his colors, thanks especially to Halo's legacy of multiplayer customization. Color number 1 is Chief in his iconic Mjolnir Mark 6 armor, introduced in Halo 2. This also features him in his standard shade of green. Colors 2 through 6 are based on some of the many colors you can choose for your Spartan in multiplayer, with color number 2 being red armor, color number 3 being blue armor, color number 4 being yellow armor, color number 5 being black armor, and color number 6 being white armor. These are all, of course, recolors of his standard Mjolnir Mark 6 armor. Color number 7 will take us back to the old days of Xbox as Master Chief will don his Mjolnir Mark 5 armor, the armor set he used in the original Halo. Finally, color number 8 will see us go to the end of the Chief's saga, Master Chief donning his modified Mjolnir Mark 6 armor from Halo 4. Also, when Kirby absorbs Chief, he'll gain a replica of his Mark 6 mask, regardless of what color the Chief player is using at the time. With this, Kirby will gain access to weapon fire for whatever weapon Chief had equipped once absorbed. This gives Kirby access to one of 6 different guns, and I'm sure the sight of Kirby holding a shotgun will make some people giggle. While I'm a big fan of Halo, and have been since its inception, I just cannot understand how Master Chief got into the position he is now. This character is commonly referred to as someone with an actual chance of making it into Smash Bros. And while I do think he'd be cool to see in a fighting game, I don't think he's a character who has ever had a chance of actually becoming a part of Smash Bros. Banjo and Steve's reasons for being in Smash Bros. Go far beyond the company that owns them, each of them having either a connection to Nintendo or a connection to video gaming as a whole. As for the two outliers that people often bring up, Cloud and Joker are the most popular and relevant characters from their respective franchises, and their franchises have a long lineage on Nintendo consoles. If that wasn't enough, both of them had already appeared on Nintendo consoles before their Smash inclusions, something that Master Chief has never had and may very well never have. Halo has never been a part of any Nintendo console's library. Master Chief has never been featured in any Nintendo published media. The connection is just not there. If this changes in the future, then maybe he truly will have a chance. But for the time being, we're still waiting on that maybe. And until then, Master Chief has no chance of ever being considered for Smash Bros. Try pushing for his inclusion in a future Killer Instinct title instead. That's far more likely to happen. If you like what you saw, feel free to like and subscribe, as there's more content coming in the future. Also, feel free to follow me over on Twitter where you can keep an eye out on what's coming next, as well as indulge in the content I create for one of my many side hobbies. I'll be seeing you again soon, so until then, stay safe, take care, and have a good one.